All right, everyone, as we welcome you to this week's edition of our bi-weekly update, we're very close to Christmas at hand. Today, looking at having only 14 shopping days left till Christmas. That's 2 weeks, shoppers. 2 weeks. We're going to do our program and prepare you for a wonderful holiday. Well, with that, I want to welcome you to our beautiful offices here in Mequon, Wisconsin, where today we get a chance to talk about some of the different things going on in the markets. They've been up dramatically lately, so nobody really minds volatility. Nobody really minds volatility when it's up, which is quite funny. So it's interesting to watch as we go through. I wanted to today, though, begin with gratitude for wonderful events that we've had. Got to meet a lot of people and see a lot of people over the weekend at the movie and other events. Had a wonderful day yesterday. Family has also got a few things going on. I want to do a quick shout out to my father-in-law, who's probably not on the call, but he broke his hip and he's recovering at home after 2 weeks in the hospital. So a lot of good things going on. My wife's down there to help him. My Samantha's kind of faring for herself, which is great at the house with myself. So it's kind of like a bachelor pad for the last couple of days, which is awesome. With that, how about let's throw it over to Mike?
Thanks, Chris. Wait, did you say Christmas was coming up?
I don't know. No, that's just normally you. So I don't know. There's
Yeah,
no
this
for
is
me.
kind of, how I get up in the morning. But anyways, yeah, no, I echo that. Grateful for the holidays as always. I think one of my favorite things is just the decorations. We my fiance Sabrina and I, we have a storage unit that we basically paid $75 a month just to have Christmas decorations at this point, because when the time comes, the apartment turns into a winter wonderland. And I wish you could see over my shoulder here, because I really vouched for the second Christmas tree in the office this year. So it's a pretty good time. I just love being able to spend the time with her, spend the time with my little family here, and can't wait to get back and see everybody back in Wisconsin. So just grateful for the season. Thanks, Chris.
That's awesome, Mike. I appreciate that. So you kind of remind me of the holiday season. So of course a holiday joke, but one of our good friends just told me the other day that they were becoming vegan. So I just wanted to create a Christmas song for him. So I created a song called "Soy to the World." How about you, Zach?
Thank you, Chris. Extremely grateful for the holiday times as well, and what it represents with family and traditions, but just grateful in general for different life phases. Pretty much knocked them all off in 2024, if you will. Engaged, married, baby boy on the way next week. So just an extremely exciting time, and just blessed by all the support and just amazing people in my life, just in general.
Awesome. Thank you. How about Michael?
Thank you, Chris. I'm also grateful for the holiday season. I can't believe Christmas is 2 weeks from today. It feels like I haven't even had time to think about it at this point. So I've tried to slow down and do a little bit of reflecting as time has passed by. And I realized that I saw a lot of my best friends and brothers by life get married this year, which has been really, really special. So grateful for that. Thanks, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you as well. How about Ryan?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, a lot to be grateful for in the holiday season here. Actually, this evening is kind of what I consider kicking off my holiday season. My 7-year-old has her Christmas concert at school, so really looking forward to that and how she's been blossoming now in school and starting to really make some friendships. That's been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you tremendously, Ryan. I wish you a long program, 2, 3 hours. It's awesome. I've been to many, and I relish all of them as well. That's kind of awesome. Why did the little drummer boy put his drum to bed? Since you're going to that tonight, you can ask him that. So why did the little drummer boy put his drum to bed? Because it was beat. Anyway, with that, I want to move on to some of the most important things we have. There's a lot of things going on. Yesterday, Assad was, maybe yesterday or the day before, Assad was thrown out of Syria. You've got a lot of questions yesterday about interest rates. There's some trepidation about those as well, but really in kind of a holiday upturn with glee. A lot's going on here. So if you look at the end of a year when things are good, I notice also with participation on our webinars, if markets are good, we have a much lower attendance, maybe 20, 25. If we have a big issue or episode going on, I'll see upwards of 45, 50. But I understand that. You've come to trust us and you know that this is there. You may jump on for a little bit, you may jump off for a bit, and you just know what's going on. But what's interesting about this as well is we're continuing to bear down. There's a lot of things going on within our program, and a few of the things we've been looking at is making a change to another fund in our convertible category that has a better long-term return, and also a lower cost, a way to save you money. There's things we're doing with money markets to make sure we're enhancing your total experience with us, really trying to constantly work to be better for you. That's not common to most advisors out there. We found most advisors are simply being there, keeping score, going, okay, good, see you next year, next half year, whatever it is. It's different for our team here. So the people you see on here are really focused on an outcome for you on a consistent basis. And sometimes we're short shrift in telling you what those are. So during our meetings, during this, I'll be giving you some of those highlights as well as letting them tell you as we go along. I think really as I reflect on a great year, once again, we've had 2 back-to-back years. If I go back to memory lane or perspective lane, when I joined the business in the 1990s, late 90s, we had 5 years in a row of double-digit returns. And I remember hearing things like, oh, what's betterer? Did you hear that word? It's betterer. Well, that's a good return. 25 is good, but 27, but you should go over here to this company, B2B. I was in Silicon Valley in that time frame with my brother-in-law, who was working at a major company I can't mention because it's a stock as well. But we had something called the pterodactyl party. There was 225 people got together in this house of a gentleman who retired at 35 years old with $20 million from this company I can't name. And he brought us all in. We all had to dress as cavemen. So that's interesting, but I'm the only financial advisor there. So all night we're playing foosball. He had this whole thing set up like Fred and Wilma from the Flintstones. It was awesome. And I'm kind of thinking, this is incredible. I'm 20 some years old. This is like the thing. The person who had the least money that they were talking to me about there was a receptionist. She had $500,000 in stock options, which she was about to leave that company for something that she perceived as greater. We all know the rest of the story in 2000, what occurred, but this was from the peak and the glee after 5 years of this time it's different. This time irrational exuberance isn't going to work. So we start to see here a couple years in a row. What I start to do now is I do lifeboat drills when things are good. Why? Because we want to prepare you. Times are going to get tough. Do not start pegging your values at what they are presently. Start looking at things as, hey, there's a reality of breathing in, breathing out. Last October, you hit some low numbers. Maybe 2 years ago when we hit 2022, you hit some low numbers. Don't also mark those as proper numbers. There's a place in between that Warren Buffett would call his comfort zone of a consistent return, not Mr. Market, which is flopping up and down. So I'm not going to say that it's overvalued. I'm not going to say it's undervalued because there's some of the most incredible growth companies in the world. And guess where they're based? Right here in the US. So foreign investment does not concern me heavily because they're finding the best opportunities in the world. And that happens to be in our market with the companies that we have that we list. So there's a lot of things out there that people are taking that are good news that they're flipping into bad. And I'm going to tell you something about my life and our life. Everything is a choice. So when I'm bringing you all this data and these statistics, you got a choice in how you look at it. Your choice is to be, oh, that's really awesome. I appreciate that. Or, yeah, this happened. I can understand. I can grow from it. So you can choose to be better from what news comes on, or you can choose to be bitter. Most of America chooses bitter, especially with the news media. And it's not by your choice, it's by what's being fed to you. So when I look at this and you hear some sort of news, it's an opportunity to get better. In this, we're trying to teach you on a consistent basis. You guys are fantastic, fantastic investors. We want to help you and your family become the best, consistent, understanding you're investing, not flopping in and out depending on who's president or just one earnings report. You got some of the greatest growth companies in the world hitting a Gutenberg moment of AI, maybe 20 Gutenberg moments at one time, and you're living in it. And you're seeing companies being not just created for it, but blowing up because of it in incredible ways, right? There's going to be an opposite side to this as well. There'll be an overhang. We're going to be here, and guess what? We've planned for this. We've planned for what's to come as well. When you work with us, we understand the entire process, the boom, the bust. The boom could go on for another 2 days, 2 years, 7 years, who knows? This is an incredible time. The important part is to be in the market with stocks. We don't know if in 2 days, 2 years, 2 months, 7 years, if the market's going to correct at that time. But I'm going to tell you something for sure. The market will correct. And if history is any indication, what does a correction do? After a correction, the market always makes new highs. So I wanted to offer you that perspective for myself here, kind of an old fart in the industry. I've been in it almost 30 years now. So, I'm kind of getting up there. I use a cane sometimes, if it's a candy cane this time of year to stir my hot chocolate. But, as I get older, I relish those kind of things. So with that, I want to just pass that on. Let's go over to Mike's minute. Mike, we're going to give you a couple of minutes here because I know that we've got a little bit extra to go through. But Mike, how about yourself?
Oh, Christmas is really coming early here. So
If we give Mike a little bit extra talk time, he's like, that's a present.
Yeah, hey, no, absolutely. So I got a lot of stuff to go through in my couple minutes, but Chris, to echo kind of what you're saying, just because we're doing lifeboat drills and we talk about the what if on the downside, we also need to talk about the what if on the upside. Just because you do lifeboat drills doesn't mean you shouldn't get on the ship, if you will. So in 2024, the market actually set 50 new all-time highs, closed at over 50 new all-time highs. That is just a showmanship of the fact that even though the market touches all-time highs, it still likes to proceed onward. Actually, on average, right? The average is skewed because we get years of lots, we get years of very few. On average, the market actually closes 18 times each year at new all-time highs. It is a fascinating subject. That's like 3% of all trading days. So it is wonderful to see that, because what that means is that, the fear of missing out, all of these sort of things, don't go rushing to individual stocks when these sort of things happen. That's something that's very dangerous, is when you see one stock go up to the point of 300, 400% and now feeling like, oh, I got to get in because this is going to continue. When we start getting calls and seeing more people making those decisions, that's usually when we see it start to top off. When we talk about the overall market and a diversified portfolio, that's a little bit different. In the words of Nick Murray, that will always bring up, the best time to be an investor is when you have, or best time to invest is when you have the money available to do so. The best time to sell is when you need money on the outside. So very interestingly enough, carrying forward, taking a look at a webinar I was just on a little bit earlier this week, Raymond James comes out with their top picks each year. This is one of the best research departments in the entire country. You all have them at your fingertips. If you go on your online access, there is access to the Raymond James research tool. You can look at individual stocks, you can look at market outlooks, things like that, even daily recaps of what's going on. If you ever want some help navigating that, because it's a cool little value add that we have, I'm happy to show you, or anybody else on the team. Taking a look though at what I heard on this webinar is kind of like the trends that Raymond James is seeing next year. What they really like is manufacturing and industries. And so in general, kind of what that means is that the technology stocks, not that they don't like that and don't like where it could continue to go. As Chris said, these Gutenberg moments, these moments in AI, they're going to continue to be driven by those technologies, but they've run a lot. And guess what? Now those technologies being in place, guess what now can create efficiency using them? We're going to see potentially some pretty good earnings reports, maybe better than expected, because of the application of these technologies now shifting to the companies and giving them the opportunity to get the upside. So we'll see if that really comes to fruition this year. Nobody ever really knows, like I said, and like everyone here will continue to vouch for, nobody has a crystal ball, especially analysts. And by taking a look at some of that, you talk about some of the price targets for what was to happen this year and what has happened. Every analyst has had to raise their price target. I don't think a single one was touching $5,000 for the S&P 500. Now for next year, they're looking up towards as about 7,000 as being the top analyst kind of prediction of where it could potentially go. Analysts are bullish on the market right now. And a lot of times it's a leading indicator of worse things to come. When that could happen is far off. So who knows? It could be soon, it could be later on. Regardless, I'm always going to come back to being at that diversified foundation to set your portfolio. The ups and downs are baked into the plan. We'll capture it on the way up. We'll have places of protection on the way down. Just because you see the portfolio or your individual strategy depreciate in a way that might be similar to the market, there's something underneath the hood. Nobody owns one thing. Everyone has the opportunity to sell something and be able to generate income when it's needed. Something is a ballast in that portfolio, whether it's a different type of stock or it's a bond or an alternative strategy. All of these things are baked into it together. So you can rest assured that even though we get these fluctuations, we plan for them. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you as well. I appreciate it. Hey, I got a question for you. So you talked about fear a little bit. What do last week we had St. Nick's, that came out. What do you call it when you have a fear of St. Nick's? Might you call it claustrophobia? Anyway, just a quick thought. So I want to appreciate what you're saying, Mike. I think there's a ton that goes with that. And remember, what Mike was saying there is everything he's talked about. This is our response. We've planned for this. I want you to understand that. That's going to be a big thing you hear from us. We planned for this. It's in your plan. So let's head over to, let me see. Let me make a choice here. I want to go to Ryan. Do I want to go to Zach? Do I want to go to Michael? Let's go to Ryan. Ryan, how about yourself? Actually, you're going to do the end. Let's go to Michael. Michael, let's go. Michael Cycle, what's going on?
Thanks, Chris. I've recently been doing some reading and came across an article titled "Will Retiring Early Make You Happy?" It was actually a story about a doctor who felt like he burned himself out midway through his career and made it his goal to be financially free and actually retired at age 45. And I'll spoil the story. He was able to accomplish that goal, and he started sleeping in. Was able to go to the gym when it was empty, and started to lose a ton of weight. He was able to travel and commute around town, and he was able to avoid rush hour. He had the freedom and time to wake up and do whatever he wanted every single day. Sounds pretty good, right? He actually mentioned that he felt like something was still missing. So during this period, he decided to pivot and start to study the relationship between early retirement and happiness. A few of the positive things he mentioned: he had escaped the stress of money and job insecurity. He found it easier to focus on his health and lost a significant amount of weight. And my favorite one, he said there was no more Sunday scaries. The reality of it, what he said, finding out I was financially free or financially independent was a relief, but then I was left contemplating who I was and what was important to me. And he asked himself a lot, what do I do now? He found himself with less personal relationships because all of his friends and family members were still working. From the book Build the Life You Want, which was one of our book club books last year, they actually mentioned 3 macronutrients that are the key to happiness. The first one being enjoyment, or doing memorable activities that bring you joy, especially with the people that you love. The second one is satisfaction, which is the sense of accomplishment after achieving or completing a goal. And the third one, and perhaps the most important one, is purpose, which gives your life meaning. So some really good things to think about. And what's really interesting to me and for a lot of the team here is that this advice is not only for people who are aiming to retire at age 45, but people who are just trying to retire. And I'll end this with a quote. When we reach financial independence, it's not as important as building a life of purpose, identity, and connections, and then using that financial framework to spend your time engaging in those things. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Michael. That's very important as well. I think one thing we've talked about to many of you who've retired as well is not losing purpose. And instead of retiring from something, retire to something. To many of you are already in it and you've really just changed your purpose. But I'd say you take your entire life's work and you're done with it. Or I call it moving on to what's next. We've got a statement too, retirement is rewirement. You need to rewire yourself to something new. And I think that leaving purpose behind is not a good idea. We've seen what happens in those scenarios. But I think it all comes back to the single word this entire webinar could be, or this entire program could be, which is called choice. Make sure you choose to be happy as well. You might say, well, I don't control that. You can look at that. There's some books I can point you to. I might beg to differ. Everything in life is a choice, even sometimes our happiness. So I wanted to run through that as well. Didn't mean to get so solemn there, but I thought that was a good point for us to go through it. How about Zach's facts? Zach, you got a good 20, 30 minutes of facts for us that we should take a look at?
At least, even though I feel that you and Mike took everything off of my notes, maybe
Yes.
that's less you guys taking off the notes and how much time we actually spend together where we consistently talk about the same things. So, but I'll give the specifics of where the different market indices are for the year. The Dow Jones is up about 17.5%. The S&P as of this morning is 26.5%. And Chris mentioned 2 really unbelievable years back to back. The S&P, if it finishes above 20% for this year, it's only the 4th time since the Great Depression where there was 2 back-to-back 20+% years. But there's also the 4th largest correction since 1974 during 2020 as well. So as Chris mentioned, what follows a lot of these corrections are phenomenal returns too. So the NASDAQ, which is 50% weighted towards technology, is up 31% on the year. All 3 of those indices are up almost 10% since the middle of October. The Russell 2000, which tracks small and mid-sized companies, up 17%. That also saw a 10% jump. The beautiful part of rebalancing throughout a year and different asset classes fluctuating over time is that the beginning of the year or end of last year, if your account was rebalanced during that time, you would have been buying more small-sized companies. That would have really helped the portfolio growth over the last month or two. International and emerging markets still lagging relative to US markets. International 6.5% positive, and emerging markets right over 8%. All of those significant gains since the middle of October as well. I think Chris made a phenomenal point that I wanted to touch on as well, is just benchmarking the new all-time high. We went through that during COVID, during 2021, and then everything after that felt like a loss, but all declines are temporary and all advances are permanent. And we talked about corrections. Mike and Chris both touched on it really well, but I had a great kind of, in the honor of Zach's facts, a fact from MFS by the numbers. Since 1928, the S&P 500 has averaged about a 10% correction per year, one every 346 days. But so far, there have been 10% corrections in 2024. 2021 was the last year where we didn't see a 10% correction, and half of all the years since 2000 haven't had one as well. But we're always prepared for them. We have a plan for them. And one last thing I want to touch on is kind of the fear of missing out. You're hearing from more and more of those individual stocks like Mike mentioned, or now I'm starting to hear about cryptocurrencies again, the most I've heard since, probably during COVID. And just to be aware of that fear of missing out and always having the financial plan drive the investments, not the other way around. And another thing that just wanted to touch on too is just be aware of the different products that are fear-based in nature. Where you look at the two back-to-back 20% years, the biggest annuity sales year ever was 2022, because the market was down 20+%. Salesmen came in and wanted you to lock in a 5-10% with zero downside. That's how they talked about it. And then all of those people missed a 20+% return in back-to-back years. It's unbelievably sad for us. But just be aware of those type of things that you might start hearing about that now. Oh, lock in your gains after the 20% years and get 5% moving forward. Just be careful of all of those and what your friends or other people are saying as well. That, Chris, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, Zach and I even have seen smart people at weak moments come in and make some admissions, and you can see by their products that they purchased something that they knew they shouldn't. But in a weak moment in 2022, they felt it was right. So just be very careful right now of promises that, remember, if you have any questions about it, we can tell you about what banks, insurance companies, and advisors are to you and what they're attempting to do with and for you. And there's some different ideas with that as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate that, Zach. I mean, it always comes back to choice. I love what you said about FOMO too. I think it's pretty interesting. I always look at, people always ask me too, hey, what's going on? What's to come? Why don't you make a prediction? I said, well, there's one thing I can do. I actually can predict what's inside your gifts, your Christmas gifts. Yeah. It's a present. So it's just going to give you an idea there. I didn't want to ruin it for you, but it's really it's good. So one thing I want to do too, this time of year, a lot of people ask questions about elves. So I wanted to go through a couple of things with elves as well. I've got like 10 or 12 things for the elves, but you've heard of them. They're mystical little creatures run around. You might see them. They might hear them running through the house now as well. But I got a couple of facts about elves. So I got to ask you a question. What is an elf's favorite music? Rap. Why is the elves' alphabet a little bit different? There's no L. How do elves clean Santa's sleigh? With a sanitizer. Where do elves go to vote? Of course, the North Pole. I've got 12 or 15 more. If you want to stick around after the webinar, I'll go through them. But I thought those would be super important for you guys to know in this time of Christmas cheer. Anyway, two things about technology we were talking about. It's huge. It's huge. Before I get to Ryan to wrap this up. But one thing, and I think it might have been several very smart people. I've just forgotten who the source is. It could be Bill Gates. It could be Warren Buffett. It could be Peter Diamandis. But I've always looked at this, and I think what happens with technology, we all look at technology, and in the short term, we way overestimate what technology is going to do for our lives. Way overestimate it. So the 1 to 3 years is like, oh my gosh, it's going to change the world. And over the long term, 4 years plus, we grossly underestimate what technology is going to do. So I was recently having a conversation with somebody about a vertical takeoff and landing personal vehicle that could pick me up and fly me for 25 minutes anywhere I want to go, and then I got to plug in again. They go, wow, when is that going to be out? I go, 3 years ago. I told a lot of you who were on our Abundance 360 call about that. So you know about it, you're in the know, but those who didn't, don't. They don't know these things exist. They don't know that you can actually fly your own drone with you in it. And it's about $91,000. So it's super cheap. way more than a Tesla. And it's also really cold this time of year if you're out here in the north, because it doesn't have doors per se. But anyway, really interesting stuff about that. And I think that Zach, you made a great point about FOMO. FOMO is big. A second thing that's happening here, there's a repositioning of cash. There's a bit of a risk on trade recently. What does risk on mean? I am grossly, not willing to take risks, especially right now in biotechnology. Not, this isn't my statement, but that's what people have been by capital deployment, by not putting money into it. Across biotechnology, the very things that are going to make us feel well longer and cure diseases, they're not willing to risk in the investment of the research that it takes to cure them, but they want the results. Not uncommon. You have to go through some suffering and pain. You have to invest and have some failures to actually get ahead. But in the market sometimes, just like humans, people don't do that, and they haven't. And same thing with small cap companies that weren't making money. That's typically a ripe ground for the very next great companies that come up, and people weren't willing to invest in those. They're beginning to redeploy a little cash, as evidenced also by cryptocurrencies. That's a risk on trade. Look at what many of them are creating. They're creating nothing other than a currency you and I exchange. There's a few exceptions, but giving you an idea of those as well. So when you start to see risk on, and more money market than has ever been deployed is all out there, it's all sitting there waiting for something, and rates drop 0.75%. You're seeing some of that money reallocated. There's still a ton of dry powder out there. But it brings me to one other statement. I was at my mom's house over Thanksgiving, and we were looking at a statement where one of her banks, it's a big bank, you all probably may have it as well, had an elite money market rate. And during the interest rate drops, she was guaranteed a 4.5%. She said that was what they were doing at the time, 4.3, 4.4 for the elite money market. Without word, over two separate statements, it dropped to 3 and 1.99. So I called the bank and I talked to the teller and I said, listen, I talked to the representative. I said, so you changed this 2.5%. Well, interest rates dropped. I go, 75 basis points. So is this robbery? Who do I need to talk to higher up than you? Because it's not your fault, but I need to find out why you're taking money from somebody who doesn't understand it. Well, that's not what we're doing. I've just got to understand this. This is not correlated to what's happening in the markets. So I'm going to tell each and every one of you, if you've been promised a high yield money market with some of the big names that start with a B or U, go to it, look at your statement and find out what the interest rate is. We have followed interest rates here and what we have and the instruments we have, they have gone to profit mode, which is to give you as little as you possibly can get to make sure it doesn't move from there. So as an advocate, I just wanted to make sure that you're on that side as well. So the cash redeployment, check your interest in the bank and the risk on. So those are some things you guys all brought to me. I really appreciate that one as well. With that, I want to pass that to Ryan. Ryan, do you want to close us up for the day?
I would love to, Chris. With it being the holiday season, there's a lot going on. Got a lot of stuff on our calendar. We hope that you'll add it to your calendar as well and enjoy some of this holiday season dates with us. Starting with today, we'll be celebrating our December birthday club this afternoon. With those December birthdays, we'll see a few guests and enjoy celebrating that. We have this Monday coming up, December 16th, the holiday gift wrapping and food and toy drive. We do still have some spots available, so please check your emails and RSVP if you'd like to join us for that. We then have on Wednesday, December 18th, our offices will be closed as we focus on team development. So we will, check things periodically throughout the day, but please don't expect an immediate response on Wednesday, December the 18th. The offices then will be closed to celebrate the Christmas holiday, December 24th, 25th, and 26th. And then we are rolling right into New Year's. Offices will again be closed for Wednesday, January 1st. We'll be open normal hours the rest of that week. And then rolling right into January, we will have our next our next birthday club for our January birthdays. We are planning for January the 15th for that one. So please watch your email inbox and RSVP for that if you have a January birthday. And we will have our next health and wealth event planned for January the 22nd, and that will be at 10:30 a.m. Always great information. We did the New Calm most recently. That was excellent, very informative, got us very excited about new technology there as well. And just a reminder that this is our last bi-weekly webinar of the year, and we will see you all via Zoom once again on January the 8th. January the 8th is kind of a special day, isn't it, Chris?
It's a huge one. It might be the single biggest holiday of the year. And for anybody who wants to know that, stay tuned. I'll tell you at the next, wait, I may not tell you at the next meeting. We'll see. We'll see about that. But it is, for all of you, it is one of the biggest holidays of the year. For many of you, you've celebrated it. It's Elvis's birthday. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's somebody else, but I just want to say it's a pretty special day for my mom.
Well said, Chris. Well said.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. Well, with that, I want to close today. And remember, this is something that's very important. It's a choice. And I'm going to make this statement. If you want to look at everything, life is agency. Agency you've been given, and that's the choice. Most of all, and the most important agency you've been given, I'm going to make it a simple word, you've been given the right to choose. I want to tell you this. You can make a choice this holiday for holiday cheer and to be happy, to enjoy it, to really look at it, and to look forward to everything that you're going to see, be, or who you'll be around, or you can be holiday fear. A lot of people choose holiday fear around, oh, I got to go do all this stuff. You feel obligated. Well, I'm going to say this. It takes a lot of work, but make a choice. Make a choice to enjoy it, and it makes all the difference. Make it your intention, and make it a choice. That's the best choice you can make. Well, thank you, most importantly, for making the choice to work with us and let us serve you and your family and your portfolio and your finances. Thank you for the choice to introduce people to us so that we can focus 100% on what it is we do for you and doing the best that we possibly can. We have one of the best marketing teams in the world, and that is you. So with that, we want to make sure we're giving you the kudos, the thank you for the growth we have, for the success you see. That's due to you, your trust in us, and the introductions you make to us. So I don't want to be in short shrift. I want to thank you for what you've done for our practice as well, and making it one of the top and recognized by some people in the United States. So thank you tremendously for that. We understand and recognize it's a choice, and we work hard every single day to make sure that choice is a great one and that you're proud of it. With that, I want to thank you tremendously here for the year of 2024. We celebrate it with you. We love being with you in this as well. And we look forward to what comes in 2025. Come what may, we'll be here as well. And we make an easy choice to serve you in 2025. Thank you from the galactic headquarters of Gentian Financial here in Mequon, Wisconsin. Enjoy. Have a great, great holiday season.